ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on ESPN. A lot of positives, a lot of negatives. But really, the only way to see what ESPN is like in 2024 is to watch it for 24 hours. It's about 7 o'clock Monday, September 9th. I'm really thinking of this almost as if I was writing a thesis, a big college paper on ESPN about evaluating ESPN, but instead of sitting down at a computer and writing the essay, I am watching ESPN for 24 hours. I guess that's why people call it a video essay. And what better day to evaluate ESPN than the Monday after the first Sunday of the NFL season? This is basically ESPN's Super Bowl. The Monday after Sundays during the NFL season are always ESPN's highest rated day. I mean, their A-team is here, no personality is on vacation, so this is the best of what ESPN has in 2024. So obviously we're going to start with Get Up, and I swear I didn't even plan this. I was going to make some joke about how ESPN just talks about the Cowboys and the Lakers and the Jets. The Jets thing, I guess, they're on Monday Night Football tonight, so that makes sense. But Greeny just said on Get Up, if something along the lines of, if you've ever watched this show before, you know that we love talking about the Cowboys, and we're going to talk about the Cowboys a lot. So I think that really sums up what the rest of the day is going to be like. All right, we are a little bit into First Take. And the big thing here, as I'll go through all the shows, I'll kind of talk about my kind of relationship with ESPN and like the big news that's happening with ESPN. How relevant is it in 2024? I definitely think one of the biggest positives over the last few months, or I think it's probably been, at least a year now, the addition of Shannon Sharpe to First Take, I think is awesome. Everything I see about him on Twitter and all the stuff with Nightcap that he does, in his podcast, the episode with Cat Williams and all that stuff, I think First Take is just entertaining. Especially for waking up 9 o'clock. I think you just kind of want to be entertained. You know what I realized? Get Up, First Take, and now the Pat McAfee show. Why is everyone wear suits on ESPN? Like everybody but the Pat McAfee show, right? I haven't noticed it until now, but I mean, this isn't big J journalism. We're talking about sports. And I get that in the beginning of ESPN, it was news presented through sports. So wearing the suits and all that stuff, I guess, made sense, but it just seems like the Pat McAfee show on ESPN is like when you have a substitute teacher and you know that it's going to be, you walk into the room, you see the substitute teacher like, oh, this is going to be a great day because the rules are going to be a little bit laxed. You might be able to get away with a little bit more. Like, I'll never forget, I think it was in the early days of the Pat McAfee show on ESPN where one of the hockey guys or one of the anchors, I'll put the picture up, regularly on ESPN is in a suit and then comes on the Pat McAfee show and looks like this. And behind Stephen A. Smith and First Take, I think the show on ESPN that people have the strongest opinion, whether it's positive or negative on, is the Pat McAfee show. The thing I really like about Pat is that he brought all of his friends along with him. I think everyone on the show, or maybe not everyone, but a lot of people on the show are his childhood friends. So I gotta respect that, because you don't want to be the big house on the hill all alone, right? You want your friends and family with you. And I think the contract that he signed, I think all those contracts are so interesting because they're just leases. They're like apartment leases. He signs the deal with ESPN for the show to be on whatever amount of years that it's supposed to be on, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And then after that, he still owns everything. Like, That's awesome. He gets the exposure of being on ESPN. I know his show has been around forever. I remember watching it when he had like a Stone Cold cutout behind him. They were in some random studio. So obviously more people are aware of the show because it's on ESPN. And then if either party wants to leave after, whatever it is, 5 years, Pat gets to keep everything, the show, all of that stuff. So I think it's a win-win for him. As far as for ESPN, I don't even remember what was on in the slot after First Take. I want to say it was just SportsCenter for the most part. And SportsCenter I'm really interested in to see what's going on when it starts at 1 p.m., I think, my time. Because what is SportsCenter in 2024? I don't think I've sat down and watched an entire episode of SportsCenter ever in my life. It is the 1 o'clock SportsCenter, about 1:30 my time here, Central Time. I got ESPN, or I got SportsCenter and ESPN on my laptop right here. I'll record a video and show it and put it on screen so it makes sense. Now, I've been taking notes here on SportsCenter, and the big question is SportsCenter even relevant in 2024? A sports recap highlight show is basically Twitter for the most part. I don't know how many people are watching the 1 p.m. or the noon SportsCenter, depending on, what your time zone is. But then the alternative, what do you put in the slot here instead of SportsCenter? And the way ESPN is built right now is everything is about the personalities. First Take, Stephen A. Smith, Get Up, Greeny, Pat McAfee show, Pat McAfee and friends, and then you get the SportsCenter, and who's synonymous with SportsCenter? It's only really Scott Van Pelt, and that's for the SportsCenter at night. So this middle of the day SportsCenter, who's watching this and who's it for? So the question becomes, what do you put in this slot? I know the Pat McAfee show is going on another hour, but this is all about watching ESPN, what they're giving me, and they are giving me SportsCenter. We're getting a few highlights. We're hyping up the Monday Night Football game. Maybe some top plays here or there, but none of this really has any substance. I mean, you could replace SportsCenter with, you could probably have AI and ChatGPT write it and nobody would know the difference. Now it's time for Monday Night Countdown, 5:21. Had some dinner. I'm energized. I'm ready to pull through here. So the first thing that really jumped out at me was NFL Live. I had a great time watching NFL Live. I have great memories of coming home from school, and NFL Live was like the first thing that was on when I would get back. So that was like Trey Wingo, Merrill Hodge, Sal Palantonio, I think. And I think this crew that they have really mesh well together. From what I remember, I think this has been like the NFL Live crew, the NFL Live team for a while now. So, I mean, that's the only way that you're really going to, build a team where they can have fun with each other. Everyone always talks about how inside the NBA is, head and shoulders above every other sports show, and I totally agree too. But they've been together for so long, so anybody to even try to get even close to inside the NBA, you have to give them some time. Now it's time for ESPN's Happy Hour, Around the Horn, and PTI. Around the Horn is in an interesting place because there were reports a while back that Around the Horn was getting ready to be canceled, but again, it's like, what do you put in that time slot? Does ESPN want to put something in the late afternoon to kind of compete with FS1's First Things First? Maybe that's what they're thinking. Do you extend PTI? Do you put what do you put there? I think is the question to ask. I liked Around the Horn. It's been a long time since I've sat down and watched a full episode of Around the Horn, probably 10 years, if not more. It's always had that kind of Nickelodeon game show kind of a feel, so it is different in that aspect, and it's fun. I had no problem with it. And then PTI, Pardon the Interruption, a show that I don't think is going to be touched at all by ESPN. It's going to be there as long as Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser want to keep doing it. The one thing I did write in my notes was, oh my gosh, how many commercials can there possibly be in a 30-minute show? this is insane. Maybe it's just because I haven't watched linear TV this consecutively in such a long time, but wow, are there so many commercials. I mean, you take a show that's in real time is 30 minutes, and sometimes it feels like there's maybe 10 minutes of the actual show. I do want to use this time to kind of dive into ESPN and what I would change and what I would kind of do for ESPN going forward, because I don't know how I'm going to, honestly, I don't know how I'm going to feel after ESPN and getting to that 10 o'clock Sports Center. I'm all energized now, so I want to give my thoughts as directly and as coherently as I can. What I've noticed doing this for as many hours as whatever it is right now is that ESPN, for the most part, some things have changed, but it's really the same basic structure as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And it really reminded me of late night TV and all the changes that are happening for those shows right now. I think it came out just a few days ago that Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show is the last one of those shows that is going to stop doing a Friday show. So it's just Monday to Thursday because the ratings are down. I think Seth Meyers got some budget cuts. I didn't even realize that all those shows besides The Tonight Show were just Monday to Thursday. I don't really watch any of those shows. Once you realize that those shows are just a 1 hour long commercial for whatever movie the actor is promoting, those shows, really all the enjoyment is pretty much gone. As far as the future of live sports on linear TV, I really liked the quote that Alexis Ohani, I believe I said that right, one of the co-founders of Reddit, had to say about the whole thing. I'm going to put the entire quote on the screen here, so pause if you want to watch the whole thing. But basically, he was talking about how AI is going to affect content and TV in the future, more or less saying that in the future with AI, and I know, trust me, I know, but in the future, if you want to watch something sad, or you want to laugh, or you want to cry, or you want to laugh and cry and have all these different emotions, you're just going to be able to plug that in and you're going to be able to get that content automatically. And then he went on to say that sports really is going to be the one thing that's going to outlast that, because there's a reason that we all love when a team that stinks for such a long time eventually wins the championship in whatever sport it happens to be. Like, that's a great story, and there's going to be maybe a novelty of watching, I think his example was a robot playing tennis or golf or something. Like, it'll be like a novelty thing, but sports and live content is the thing that's going to really outlast, and it's going to be the most profitable thing for TV in the future. And I think you can already see that happening. The only time I ever watch linear TV is sports and when something's happening in the news where you want live news coverage. That's it. I'm never watching linear TV for anything scripted, and it's been that way for years at this point. And bringing it back to ESPN is kind of like those late night shows where throughout the day they're just promoting the live sport that's either happening on their channel or somebody else's. And it's kind of the same with their personalities. ESPN leans so much into the personalities that if that personality leaves ESPN, the loyalty is to that personality. People will follow them wherever they go next. There's no brand loyalty to ESPN. And that's why I think ESPN should lean more into their niche, that die-hard sports fan. I think a lot of times ESPN thinks that their audience is a bunch of people in suits pontificating about sports, when that's just not true. It just seems like ESPN hasn't adapted when their own personalities who do their own podcasts, like the Stephen A. Smith Show or Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap, I believe it's called, the personalities are evolving, but the actual brand of ESPN isn't. And that all goes back to what I said about ESPN leaning so much into personalities. You almost have to pay Stephen A. Smith whatever he wants, because if he leaves, the audience will follow him. I mean, there's a reason we're getting all these reports that Disney is looking to sell ESPN. ESPN leans so much into the personalities, and then it leans so much into the sports, things that they don't own, the NFL or the NBA, that if ESPN went away tomorrow, I don't think many people would notice. They would just get their sports takes from the personalities who would eventually do something else, which is why we see in a lot of those rumors about who wants to buy Disney, one of the big ones is the NFL itself. I mean, that just goes to prove that It's more about the sport, the thing that ESPN is advertising, than the brand of ESPN itself. (10:12) Monday Night Football just ended. I switched over to my MacBook Pro here. It looks okay. From what I remember, the mic on the MacBook Pro is amazing. So a shout out to Apple there. The game was okay, and listen, if it wasn't obvious during the video, I'm a fan of a certain team that has a long history with Aaron Rodgers. And look, I'm not going to say that the Bears beat Aaron Rodgers a lot. He was even the owner of the Bears for a while there. But if the Bears can't beat Aaron Rodgers, I know who can. The San Francisco 49ers. So now, really, all that's left as far as new content from ESPN, a new show, I should say, is the Scott Van Pelt SportsCenter, which is going to be super interesting because unlike the Midday SportsCenter and everything that I didn't like about that one, this SportsCenter has a personality attached to it, and a pretty big ESPN personality in Scott Van Pelt. So it's going to be interesting to see how this episode of SportsCenter is. Obviously, I've been watching content all day, but I'm trying to put my headspace into a headspace that's like, okay, if I just tuned into this SportsCenter, this hour of SportsCenter, would it catch me up on all of the news if I wasn't on my phone or didn't know any of the news of the day? Okay, 2 a.m., give or take. I'm starting to realize that it's really just SportsCenter after SportsCenter, which honestly I can't even blame ESPN for. So I'm just going to go and read over some of the last notes I have here. Shout out to Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark. I feel like I've gotten really close to them doing this because they are all over ESPN. Do you guys ever wonder if the Cardinals, like the Arizona Cardinals, really exist? You know how like in Madden, when you create a team, you have to remove a team? Doesn't everybody just remove the Cardinals? So, does that mean they even exist? And that was that. 24 hours of ESPN. After the post-Monday Night Football SportsCenter, it was just SportsCenter all night, over and over and over. But hey, I made it. Am I a better person? No. Am I more informed? I don't know. Maybe. I guess. If you're out there and you can hear me, I hope you spend your time a little better than I did. Carpe diem.